Okay. Going to call to order the October 21, 2019 meeting of the Environmental Review Board. Present are Ted Holmes, David Horowitz, Ivan Alter, myself, missing Chris Roberta, and Dennis Corelli, the Town Environmental Coordinator. Do we have a first item on the agenda?
We do, to approve the minutes from the August 19th meeting.
Has everybody had a chance to review them?
Yes.
Yes. Any questions, corrections? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from August 19th.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You can abstain.
Oh, you weren't here? Yes. Okay. Let the record reflect that Mr. Alter is abstained because he was absent for that meeting. Next.
Calling the, what is this?
Where do you want us?
Come join.
I'm just gonna come down this way.
Yeah, there you go. So those two. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Would you introduce yourselves for the record since we're being recorded?
Sure. My name is Patrick Chu. I'm the owner of, with my wife, Helen Chen here. We're the owner of the subject property, 6 Woodville Close.
And
We're the neighbors, Lois and Phil Rosen. We live at 10 Woodville Close, and I mentioned silencing my husband's phone, but he said,
My
who's gonna
father.
call me? He's 93.
My
so
93-year-old
he gets a
father.
bye.
How does he even know where you are? So, Mr. Zhu, you don't have a consultant or an architect or somebody here to present for you?
No, because I'm an architect by training. I have a
Okay.
practice. I work in the real estate industry. So
Okay.
that's why I think this is.
So you're going to present
Yeah, I'm going to present,
yourself?
myself. Right?
Okay.
So where you want to
Go ahead, right here.
start? So this is the latest survey, and this is what I'm trying to, accomplish. So basically, what I'm trying to do is, let me show you what it was before. So you have kind of before and after comparison. So this is the drone that I fly over my property, and then showing the. Sorry. Yeah.
This from Zillow.
This is my property here. This is the backyard, and then we have a very limited usable backyard space. Start from here is all the rock and very steep slope. So that's
Where's the stream?
the stream is down here.
Okay.
Yeah.
where is?
So and this is where we are gonna put up a kind of outside patio, and this is the area that we're gonna create is a vegetable garden.
And that's our house
Yeah,
right there.
that's their house, and this is the property line, and this is the trampoline. Currently at the property. So just showing from the area that we're building up has a kind of a stone hedge or assembly here is not quite usable. Down here is some kind of a rock, bedrock.
Yeah.
The
An
plan,
outcropping?
yeah, the plan is to kind of level this up and make it a usable space while we have putting up a kind of a garden, a vegetable garden here. So this is the patio. Before getting contact with Dennis, I talked to Tom on a very frequent basis, but I was not kind of brought into the attention that I need to get the approval from the environmental board here. So that's why I put the concrete patio. So that exists right now. And then those are the two walkways that to connect my house from the back patio and then the basement to the patio. So the total area of the patio is 727 square feet, and then the walkway combined is 185 square feet. So the total, area that created from this new surface is 912, because we want to keep this kind of below 1,000, which gonna trigger the stormwater management plan.
Isn't the garden, don't you have to have the garden?
No, the garden will be all covered by topsoil, and then we're just gonna plant like this. So we're gonna create.
It's not impervious.
It is pervious.
Right, it's not impervious.
Yeah, it's not impervious.
The existing walkway in the front of your house, is that impervious or is it like ours with a sand bed and slate on top?
Which one? This two?
No, your existing one, the one in the front of the house.
This
One that's
one?
there already.
This one here?
No, that one, that you just, yeah.
This walkway?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's impure.
What surface is that? Do you have
That's
the
a blue-
paver stones on that one?
That's a blue stone, I believe.
But
Is it
it's
set in sand?
What's
or-
it set
It's
in?
sand.
Just sand, no
Just sand.
concrete.
No concrete.
Because you're planning on doing concrete in the back?
Right, because it's very difficult to level that up on the sand base.
Okay, so you're not gonna put the paver stones in the front the way you were in the back?
On the front here?
Yeah,
No.
okay,
No.
okay, I'm
I
just
just-
trying to get the scope.
Right, it just I put some linear footage here. I didn't change the material.
Yeah, I saw the guys working in the front, so I didn't know what they were
Right.
doing.
It's unlevel.
Okay,
So I remove all the blue stone, put the sand back, level up, and then put the stone and make it level.
And that, from Tom and my conversation about that's a repair and that.
Yeah, that was
that's-
the repair.
That's fine, yes.
Right, and the plan is to
And it's
create.
also out of the buffer.
Right, this is out of the buffer.
The front of the house is
The front
out,
of- yeah.
is outside of that buffer.
Right. So in order to kind of meet the environmental kind of ordinance or law, we're trying to this mitigation to create this patio with a very simple method, very limited concrete on top of the gravel, just to level. The purpose is just to level it up. Nothing major. And then on top of that, I bought the unit block, pavers, and that's on site as well. And the next step is to put that on top of the concrete. And I understand our neighbors' concern of the stormwater, gonna kind of direct to their house, and then that's why I think I can double check, but I can make sure that there's a kind of three-way direction for the stormwater directions. Instead of all the stormwater being directed to our neighbor's house, it should be this way and this way.
So how would you do that?
This is slow. I create slow.
So in other words, when you do it, it would slope
Yeah.
not towards
Not
the
towards
neighbor's
their
property,
neighbor,
would
right.
slope
towards the
away.
back, towards the back of our house here. So towards this side.
I guess, and I don't know whether I should be asking questions or waiting, so whichever
Well,
way is better.
let him finish with the
Okay.
presentation then.
Okay. And then that's the construction method. So in terms of aesthetic, I'm gonna put some kind of bush to on the edges to make it look nice from our neighbor's side, and hopefully we will do something to beautify this whole area, because this also to our benefit.
Right.
It's gonna be using by ourselves, right? For the garden, that's the purpose, or that's the kind of the structure that we're trying to build. I understand that this column is 6 by 6, a little kind of heavy looking, but that's why we want to make it a sturdy structure. Just from the construction method wise, we prefer this instead of a typical kind of steel fencing, and because of that we need a little bit kind of concrete on the footing.
For the footings?
Yeah, on the footing, just like this, because it's 6 by 6. So it's another inches, kind of cover it up and then make it stable, sit on the ground. And those are 20 columns here, around the side.
And that's only on the exterior of the garden
Yeah,
or around the whole thing?
only on the exterior. It's just like this,
That's this.
Right.
the exterior.
Oh, but it's on all sides of it?
No, just on the garden.
Yeah, but on all 4 sides of the garden?
Yeah,
It's
all
not-
4 sides on the garden.
I'm just looking to see what's in red on your plan.
Oh, that's the soil erosion
Oh, okay.
control that by
Right.
demand by town.
Yep, yep,
During construction,
yep.
I don't want anything kind of moving
Right.
down to the area. So this is kind of finished look for the patio. This is what I'm gonna use for the
Silk
erosion
fence.
plan, and this is the kind of hoping the finished look for the garden, and this is the the grass that we're gonna put along the patio. Yeah.
Okay. Questions?
Yeah, preliminary question, the patio concrete that you've laid so far is not sloped at all, right?
It is slow.
It is
It
sloped?
is slow. Yeah.
Okay, and
The way you talked about, or is it
I
sloped
can
differently?
check, but the way it's slope, I think it's halfway here. It's 3-way slope. I make sure you see there's a steel bar that sit in the middle. So that's the high point.
okay.
That's the highest point.
This, okay,
Right here, the patio. There's a steel bar like sitting there. So the slope is this 3-way. So I want to have that evenly instead of going to one direction. That's the initial thought.
okay, but there's no drainage, there's no curtain drain, there's no,
No, it's a natural.
I guess, we had two primary concerns. One is the impact in terms of flooding that could occur to our property or around where, when this was originally started, all of a sudden there is a concrete which looked like it was on top of
This area.
yeah, on top of what was a rock, another area over here, which then, the way the property is situated, their property is slightly higher than ours, so it runs directly down. We had another neighbor, we lived elsewhere in Chappaqua for about 10 years before we moved to this house, about 20 some odd years ago. And their property was higher, and they actually put in between
did
the
work
two
that-
houses railroad ties with the intent that the kids could go back and forth. And the first storm ended up with our entire basement flooded, unintentionally, but that was the result. So these were friends of ours, and they put in drainage, and they did a variety of other things, had to change it around. So our first concern when we started to see this was, oh my God, will the same thing happen? Because there's already concrete that is up, the patio was basically there. Before we turned around, the patio was started and largely, we thought, completed, because with no plans that we were aware of other than the discussions we had, because so as we looked at it and we watched the patio being built and the garden being built, our first concern, before we even got to the issue of is there a sufficient buffer between our property and theirs, was we don't wanna stop, you know, Patrick and Helen from doing this. What we want is to ensure that it's done appropriately with town approval so that that doesn't happen. And things like curtain drains or other amelioration, if that's possible, if it can be, if you say it has to be tipped the following way and it's gotta go in the following direction, I don't know what impact that has on the underwater stream, which is a concern that's valid. And
Underwater?
wherever the stream is,
No,
we've never,
It's down at the bottom of the hill here.
I,
Right.
Okay, but either
The
way,
reason, the only reason that this is regulated at all is because the town wetland ordinance regulates 150 feet on either side of the wetland itself. So the wetland buffer, you'll see that the border of the buffer tracks the stream and it's just 150 feet.
right,
Now, here, you're basically, from what you can see, this is all uphill from the stream.
and.
so it would flow down,
It would flow down.
but we don't
It
know,
would flow down, but
other than Patrick saying that I'm gonna tip it in 3 different directions.
well, that's why we were asking the question.
Yeah, I don't-
As to
Absolutely.
which, as to which way, you
Right.
know, if there was a way to direct, you know, and to be honest, and this isn't a huge construction project, and the amount of runoff, you know, there will be some obviously, but, you know, to the extent that you could get away with just making the patio canted, pitched in such a way that the runoff went this way instead of toward your house, that might be, you know, the most efficient and, you know, least costly way of doing it, as opposed to requiring some elaborate drainage system
Yeah.
to be built in conjunction with it.
And
So,
frankly, we don't know what the answer is. And we know what the potential issue was, and that's why we said we need the town to step in to ensure that it's done right. And that it's done in compliance with whatever code
and
is.
we can certainly make it a condition of the permit that the patio be pitched. I mean, assuming that the town engineer, whoever else is involved, or Dennis believes that that's gonna work, and we could have that as a condition of the permit to make sure that the runoff goes, you know, other than towards your house.
Yeah,
Does
can
the-
make the runoff, 100% to this way instead of any, to this direction. Because
Does
it's the,
Does the garden impact the stormwater at all?
Well, the garden is not impervious, so any stormwater that comes to the garden is gonna go right through.
Okay, but you did you put something underneath the garden, any kind of
It's like filter paper.
liner or?
Yeah, that's filtered paper. That's
Okay.
just, prevent the grass to grow out.
It's a weed block, it's
Yeah,
not
it's a weed block, yeah,
Okay,
it's a
but
weed
that's
block,
pervious,
yeah.
that, water goes through that.
Okay, and where, I know you had originally sent us a treehouse sketch that you.
That's completely done.
Okay,
No, we're not-
what are you planning on putting in lieu of the treehouse? Because you've given us several different iterations, a helicopter, a treehouse.
No, there's no treehouse.
Okay, are you putting something here?
No.
You're not gonna put any playhouse in the back, in this side yard?
Well, if we're gonna put playhouse, it's gonna be, it's not sticking on the ground. It's those
Be one of those places.
play sets. Yeah,
It's
play
movable.
sets. Yeah, it's
It's
movable.
not a permanent
Yeah, it's
structure.
no, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hearing you, Patrick, but honestly, you've given me like 5 different
No, that's
concepts of
our
what you wanna
initial thought. But when we
use.
talk to Tom, I need to, because it's within, I think, the setback requirement. Because what we did this survey,
I think, if we're gonna put the play set, it's gonna be somewhere
Are you leaving your?
somewhere here. Somewhere here. So in my, within the
60 or 45, feet setback requirement that I need the variance. I don't want to go through that. That process, so-
That's not our jurisdiction.
Right,
so-
No, but I'm just concerned about what it's gonna look
Right,
like.
no, of course.
Yeah, no, but no, the tree house, even the concrete column is removed.
Right.
Yeah, I removed that, and then if we're gonna put any plate house, it's gonna be placed that is removable place there.
So the other large issue in addition to that one for us was the look. And you mentioned that you were gonna put, I don't know what kind of netting it was, but I know there's netting on the patio, on the vegetable garden. And
Just like this, the netting.
They're gonna do this fence thing with lots of wood, right?
Yeah, this wood.
So your 1x6s that you now have constructed all around this garden,
they're just
you're
fence-
gonna leave, you're not doing any decorative fencing, you're just doing straight boards all the way around and
No
up and down?
board, just
Those meshes.
like
Yeah, that,
what is it made of? Is it wood or is it mesh? Just trying to get a sense.
mesh.
What about all those 2x4s, just have like 50 wood in the back of your property that I assume you're planning on using somewhere, where are you planning on using that?
no. That was initially
That was
trying
for your-
to for the
that was your
tree house, but
forestry.
now we're gonna put it under our deck. We're not gonna use that.
Okay, so this is not a fence all the way around these,
Those the
What-
the steel
what is
meshes.
this, I'm sorry, maybe I'm.
Let me show you. Let me show
When
you.
Lois called me today, one of the things she said was that there are different kinds of mesh. There's more invisible mesh, there's more of the darker looking mesh. So at least when she was looking at it, if there was going to be a garden, then if it could be more of the invisible kind that's clearer, it will not be as visible, not be as obvious from our house. The other problem we had was, I know you had talked about putting some shrubs here, but for our purposes, that doesn't do it, that's less about environmental impact, I understand that, than it is about just
It's
the
awful
look.
looking right
For
now.
us, because of where our house sits in our living room and our bedrooms overlook this, so if you put low shrubs in, it doesn't really
Help us.
I don't know whether you can put something in that would be, like 8-foot shrubs that cover the patio in that regard, so that what we'd be looking onto from any angle wouldn't be the patio itself, but would really be the shrubs, because we can't put anything closer to the property line, to the best of my knowledge, because of your septic system. So we were trying to come up with what solutions might be workable, that would possibly
to be honest
shade
with
us
you,
from.
8 foot it's like this.
I know.
This tall.
Yeah, but then
We're
if
different.
you're
We're
if you're on
downhill
your
from that.
patio, then you have privacy and we do too. And if you're in the garden, then
It's behind the patio.
we have privacy and you do too, which was part of the, we were trying to come up with a solution, because you can't put trees where the septic system is.
So that was a question. On, I guess this is your property line?
That's us.
Yes.
Is it true that on their side, they need 10 feet away from the property line? Or can they plant up to the property
I
line?
know this is from 1979 and obviously it was drawn in, but my understanding is that 10-foot offset has to apply strictly to the property that the structure and septic system is going to be on. So in theory, every property in Chappaqua that, as long as they're outside of their septic system fields, can plant a tree on their property, because they would not be impacting
But from
another
our
property's
perspective,
septic.
because it goes
I-
down like
No,
this,
I-
we'd have to put 25-foot trees
I'm just,
up
Yeah,
in
no.
order to block it. It
you just
wouldn't
made a
do us
statement
any
about
good.
10 feet away. I wanted to know if that was true or not.
Got it.
Could you plant up to the
Yeah.
property line?
Can I ask a question though?
If we planted at the property line, because of the,
It might not
Yeah,
Yeah.
it might
resolve
not be,
your
right,
issue.
right.
You,
Dennis, can I, just the question about the 10-foot buffer from the septic system, is there a well, theoretically, if we can do it, that's a good thing. But I also, a lot of our concerns really have to do with the environment and health safety. I don't wanna put shrubs on my property line if I'm gonna be impacting their septic.
Right, that's my
I
understanding.
mean, it may be legal,
That's why that 10-foot, that's why that 10-foot buffer is there, and that's like the.
so is there 10 feet between, from it, you can see the end of their septic and the property line?
Well, according to Mr. Campbell in 1979, that is.
Well, he was the guy in 1979,
Right,
so.
so that's the way these are designed, that's why there's this, I believe that's why you have that 10-foot marker here, because I believe, that still applies today. You almost have to think of it as like squeezing it a bit, you're not allowed to go up to someone's property line, it's entirely your responsibility, as every septic owner has in Chappaqua, so that was my
Is it Phil's father?
understanding.
Might be a friend.
That's all.
Is he 93?
So, yeah, I've, and frankly, just from the environmental perspective, some of the plantings that I would propose, it would be grasses but there's a bunch of species of native bunch grasses that I would actually look to put, just to make sure, A, that they're native, and B, that they sort of stay at that, I guess it's the word I'm looking for, it's not phenotypic, it's just basically that herbaceous level of, nothing woody, because I was saying to them, having been out there and looking at it, the other problem is that, when you come off the bedrock, I mean, even though you have grass here, it's not like you go from bedrock to great, you could go down 3 feet, you know what I mean? It's like, there's definitely this gradation of, so anything woody on this side, you really are now getting closer and closer to the fields. You couldn't even just nail it. So even using this tree as a guide, I tried when I was out there. It's difficult to think that you could put something else like that right against it here, and A, get deep enough just that you could plant a ball, and then B, is that even potentially within, because I was trying to do some measurements, and it's difficult without actually going out there with a machine and doing some subsurface to actually find these things, because this is how it was done in 1979, and it was all hand drawn, and there's no way to superimpose this onto a current survey. It's just that this is the septic and here you go, that's kind of what this represents. So in essence,
Can you tell where the septic is vis-a-vis the concrete patio, or you cannot?
no, but as far as just sticking to what was there in terms of the outcropping and the surface, that wouldn't have been part of the installation in fields of that, because of the nature of that material.
If the patio wasn't already poured, would one option be to move the patio further over, or lessen the size so that you could put trees or shrubs into the spot at that level, which is
we actually use
here?
this bedrock here. So this all when we try to dig in, this all bedrock
Right.
underneath. So that's why we're not expanding this. We just use this edge. That's
Yeah.
just.
But
Well, I kinda feel like
Patrick, a lot
it was
of
a
the
done deal
problem,
before we
a lot of
ever
the
had
problem
this
that I
discussion.
had was that you
That's-
told us you were building behind your house with a little bit in the side yard. And you texted me that and it was fine. And I said, good luck, and just let me know when the workers are coming. And then what you did instead was you did this major, may not be major architecturally for purposes of the environmental review board, for Lois and Phil Rosen living right next door. You took the entire side yard, which had been grass and wildflowers, and made it all concrete, so that instead of living in Chappaqua, we kind of feel like we're living in Queens. And that, I know that wasn't your
Yeah,
intent,
for-
and I know you don't have a
No,
lot of
that's what I-
usable
yeah,
area.
right.
And for us, if you were looking at this and the patio hadn't been built already, I would be saying, why did you create this walk in the back overlooking the deck instead of moving the garden over, moving the patio over, or moving the patio behind and moving the garden over here?
There's no space here to.
Well, there is space right here.
Yeah, or don't build everything so
There's-
big.
Sorry, there is space here. There's space in your backyard to do this instead of doing it all
You
the
have
way
your
over
garden,
on the
vegetable
side
garden in
yard.
the backyard now?
That was your choice, probably I don't wanna say why, I don't know why, but it certainly impacts us more and has the potential for drainage instead of over here, where the potential for drainage would have gone off this way if you were.
No,
if
I
you
think
were-
this drainage will still go on this way. This is low going this way.
All I'm saying is there were other options that might have been more feasible and still might be feasible. It might be harder for you, but if you haven't done the work on top of the concrete at this point, there is still an option to modify the plan in a way that would be more acceptable to us and might be more environmentally sound. I don't know. That's your bailiwick.
It would all still be within the buffer, I guess that's how I'm looking at it, like we would still have to review it, obviously, in sort of the same capacity, and the surrounding slope and environment and stream would generally be the same,
And you'd actually be slightly increasing the amount of incursion into the buffer if you moved that top, the walk, the piece of the walk that's closest to you guys. If you move that back towards the back of the house, you'd be moving it into the buffer.
Well, you wouldn't need the walk, because you have either the deck or the pad, depends where the garden and the patio go. But you would have less incursion because you wouldn't have an incursion on the side at all.
So, let me ask you, for the walkway, right? Could the walkway just be set on sand or, you know, rock dust
Yes.
in lieu of?
Yes, that's the
Concrete.
plan, that's the, sand dust.
So.
The walkway right now is just sand
So
dust.
the walkways,
The walkway
can
is fine
be-
because it's level. We're not gonna put any concrete on the walkway.
so
Okay.
those
So those are-
would be pervious.
Those are
Yeah.
pervious, right?
And that addresses the water that lands on, it'll drain down into the soil and dissipate.
Right.
So then, as we talk about the patio, so maybe one of the things to look at for the patio is to show how the water that would land on the 700 smart feet of patio would be diverted in a way to minimize the westward flow and be brought right to the east
Towards the back.
Yeah,
Or
as,
to the north.
suggestion, we'll make sure that that's a condition to the permit.
and show some way that that would either be, you know, gathered in a drain or in a trench or a curtain drain, whatever you wanna call it, and brought out in a way that is controlled and not sheet flow down into,
Okay,
you
yeah.
know, a steeper
You think
slope.
that's better than just
Controllable,
pitching,
yeah.
than just pitching the patio?
It would control a surface runoff so that it wouldn't scour or create.
provide some retention,
Right.
right, yep.
And that way, you know, perforated pipe in a,
Yeah, that's easy, yeah.
right, and a trench drain then would allow it to percolate down without creating a runoff issue.
Which doesn't address the aesthetic concerns that the Rosens raised, which
Is another issue to be
Right.
dealt with, but not
Right.
necessarily.
Yeah, I think that does
This-
resolve the stormwater issue in a wonderful way. Wonderful, maybe overstating it a little. But it does, the aesthetic issue remains, and I honestly don't know what to do. I mean, Mr. Corelli's been out several times, he's seen the visual impact on our property. We've lived there a very long time, and have enjoyed being in the country. I mean, you know, that we're the Chappaqua, you know, we're Chappaqua people, we've lived here 30 some odd years. And we've honestly never had an issue like this, and we really like Patrick and Helen. This is not personal and it has nothing to, you know, I just
But the
don't.
communication that you're having now in that conversation about what can be done,
We've
sounds like,
communicated.
it should
No,
continue.
agreed,
Yes, but we've
agreed.
had that before and it hasn't resolved the issue. So that's why.
That's why we came here. And that's why we suggested the architectural review board, because I don't know, it's really not your bailiwick.
Have you gotten a
And
response from them?
I have not. I asked Mr. Corelli this morning if they have in fact received our correspondence.
Right, it was
I
actually.
was told that he thought that they
Yeah,
did,
it was
just today.
discussed, and they knew this meeting was tonight, so I think there'll be some feedback from this and where it goes from there and how it gets presented, and then whether the board decides, yes, we will hear it, and we won't hear it.
Yeah,
based
you know,
on
I'm sure they would be thrilled
Yeah.
if they were to hear from the environmental review board that, hey, guess what? You know, we took care of this for you guys. But you know.
We'll leave, call the meeting, you guys keep discussing.
Right.
Well, listen, I'm an architect by trade. I don't want to build something on my properties, not aesthetically looking, right, at the first place. The reason that I choose my quarters, I choose my property is I like the neighborhood. I like the building. I like the kind of modern style of my house. And I'm just trying to improve my property. This is not quite useful to my family. I'm building the vegetable garden for my in-laws. She loved, veg, gardening. My in-laws, and I want to, build a place there for my little one.
Kids
who
to
is
play,
just
so
two,
there's too many rocks out there.
and I already
that's
listen,
why.
I listen very carefully to my neighbor's concern, and that's why I kind of abandoned the tree house building kind of along these two trees. And even I have proposed some kind of interesting looking place there, which is a helicopter. And Louis told me, oh no, a helicopter place on a concrete pad. Oh, it's really ready to take off. Okay, I'm not gonna go to that direction. I'm gonna, if I'm gonna get a, kind of a traditional, conventional play set, just be able to have my kid to play on it. That's all I want to do on this, on this project.
Well, and then, look, we're not trying to stop you from doing that. One thought might be, put it back here.
It's just
It's just
It's just difficult to just.
Patrick, it's not,
That area is very narrow, as you can tell, and I'm sure.
but it's a small place here. So just think
No,
about
it's-
it. That's all I'm saying, is I think
It's a
that the
play set or a
more,
drum set, you get to choose.
well,
This
as long as
is
it
kind
depends
of,
if I can play it.
this is like 6 feet from the.
How about
first
on the
step.
other side of your driveway?
That's on the front.
And that's what this looks like to us. That's on our front. It's on your side, but it's on our front. And that's why we have a problem with it. I wish that we didn't. I wish that I didn't see it every time I drove down my driveway, but I do. You don't see it because it's your side yard, but you have now developed the entire side yard.
Well, there's a
it's
trampoline
gonna
there
be-
right now.
Yeah, the
Right.
trampoline right
Yeah,
now.
okay, so there's a trampoline there now, how does that affect everything?
The trampoline has been there since they moved in. They got it for their daughter, right? And it was
And how
We
awesome.
bought it 2 years.
And when we when we said, okay, so they have a trampoline outside their side yard.
It was fine.
That was the only
But I
item
think, doesn't a
there.
playset gonna go pretty much where the trampoline is? So,
But
that-
now-
Right, and we
now-
didn't object to the trampoline when it
So
was there
because-
by itself, but
Right.
now that it's
Now-
with the
but a
garden
playset-
and the
what you're talking about
patio.
with a place is a couple swings and a little
Yeah,
house.
yeah.
You're like a creative playthings,
Wait.
playset?
Yeah,
mean,
can we
I was
limit the
just saying-
size of the playset? Because what you texted me as the playset
I
was
think
like
That's
20
abandoned,
feet.
the tree house we abandoned, we
No,
not.
but
If we
the
showed you what
subsequent
was
pictures
planned,
that you sent me
you would
of
get a sense
various
that it was a-
iterations
it was
of
a climbing
playsets
wall,
were
a regular
all very
playset.
large.
Climbing wall with an inside porch.
I know how big those
So-
trampolines are, and a regular playset is gonna be no bigger than that trampoline, a regular
But that's not
playset.
what he's in,
Okay.
but that, yeah.
Alright, just
but-
maybe that's
Maybe
where
we
the
could-
disconnect is, or, because if the trampoline goes, right,
Mm-hmm.
then it's probably 6 to 1, half to the other, but that's for you guys to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, from your point of view, I think the limit of what we can do is deal with our ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way any kind of screening or planting would really be relevant to this application would be in terms of agreeing with some plan for planting mitigation to offset the limited incursion into the buffer. And, you know, we're a little bit limited, very limited, in how much we could require Patrick to do, because, you know, you have to understand, I think you do, that this is, for wetland purposes, a relatively minor incursion into the buffer. So, you know, there are formulas that we use
Right.
in figuring out square footage and what would have to be mitigated, and you know, I think that you could work with Dennis and Patrick to come up with what you guys think is, you know, the right mitigation within those limits, but I think anything more ambitious,
Could we limit the size of the playset?
the playset is completely
Yeah,
outside of our jurisdiction.
That's
I think from
What I
a,
was gonna say, let me just finish the
Go ahead,
sentence, I think
sorry.
anything beyond that would be the subject for conversation with either the building inspector or the ARB if they happen to choose to get involved.
right, and that's from my perspective, if the environmental review board sets specific limits in a permit that Patrick has to follow for the stormwater,
Well, I think
which is what you're doing.
we're happy to do that.
Then we understand that that from the it might be the architectural review board, depending upon the size of the project, which might be over $25,000, and the impact on the community. We understand that, and if we don't have to do that, and this can all be worked out, that's great. But we want to make sure that we've tried to address that issue as well. And we want to make sure that anything that's done is consistent with what would be appropriate in the community, that would be acceptable to the architectural review board or Dennis or whoever the correct individual or entity is that would pass on that.
Right.
Where again, you've been our neighbors. We'll probably be neighbors for a long time. And so, but I do hope that you hear these other additional concerns that we have, and you can tell each of us have different priorities, yet we come out the same way, because both of these were important to us, both the storm warning piece and the
Aesthetic
the
piece.
aesthetic piece. So.
I'm gonna sell my playset. It's very small. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, you could buy ours first.
And
I have a
if you
place-
want, we'll just rent you a side yard.
And
Just a little levity there.
it sounds like, you know, if you could figure out a way to, you know, accommodate the improvements that you guys wanna make in a way that would be, you know, acceptable to your neighbors, you guys would all be better off for it. So, you know, and truthfully, that's more likely to occur with conversation between you than it is with, you know, Newcastle town boards. You know, we are obviously limited to our stormwater and tree ordinances, and the ARB is gonna have their, you know, their limitations as well. But, you know, you guys, I think, putting your heads together, I feel confident could probably come up with something that would you know, meet everybody's
Sounds like you're on
needs.
the right path.
Yeah,
Just
just keep talking.
See if I can find 8-foot high trees. Which is
It's possible.
Well, one thing I've been impressed with thus far is Mr. Corelli's knowledge of trees. So, he's given us some suggestions.
We're giving you the
already.
challenge.
Location, application.
alright,
So-
so do we need to sum up?
You think we have enough? Just that you wanna keep this open and see whether any conversations can work out an overall plan, or should we just, you think?
Well, timing wise, I really want to address this and then keep finishing the project before the winter hits, because otherwise it will sit there for, because there's some materials on the side, because when Dennis and my neighbor asked me to stop, I stopped right away. I didn't do anything, I didn't touch anything. I want to leave as it is.
It wasn't just us, the town.
Yeah, the town. Yeah, Dennis what he told me. So I really want to.
I mean, right, the two factors that we were most concerned about that seems to have been addressed is one, the drain, right, that make sure that goes on opposite
So
side.
we have to put it on paper,
That's-
Yep,
yeah.
show how
yep,
they
so that would
plan
be
to
one
do it,
revision,
submit it
right.
to you, and then.
And then the other would be, which I know we haven't discussed, but it would be same in concept with respect to location of plantings of grass species. And I would communicate that to you via email, what those options would be with respect to species, rows, spacings, etc., that would go on the edge. That would
Edges
be
here.
right.
Edges.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That would serve to address any sort of additional stormwater issues, that anything that happens to want to pitch that way. Hence, that's why it'd be more than one row and it would be staggered and all those things. So.
Can that still be done in terms of plantings in 2019, or is it too late in the season to do those plantings?
Well, since there's going to be probably a revision I need to see and whatnot, it probably would be too late by the end of this year. But the permit, wetlands permit is good for a year, and when conditions are part of that permit, which one of them being mitigation, that is a condition that has to be met, or anything that's built that requires a building permit is not getting a C of O until they meet the mitigation requirement.
Okay, and how does that impact with the garden? Is that something that you, because that to me is an aesthetic issue, more in keeping with what the Architectural Review Board would look at, not these guys. So I can see being finished with the pavers and stuff. Was the garden
You
something?
mean the fence of the garden?
That's what I mean.
Yeah, this is the kind of not as this dense, but this kind of the steel mesh. Yeah, probably I want to put on.
So it's more like bear fencing instead of
Yeah,
deer fencing,
yeah.
kind of? Okay.
Yes.
And is there a reason you can't use the deer fencing instead of something that's
Yeah, I
quite
mean,
so heavy as that?
Not this one. I can see
Okay,
which
that's not gonna be, I assume that's not the province of you
Right.
guys, and we could try and work that out with Patrick and Helen separately. Is that all right, Patrick?
yeah, that's right.
Yep. Right.
Yeah, we can make it as invisible as possible.
I mean, right, the purpose is just herbivory, right? You're looking to keep
Right.
things that want to eat your vegetables out. That's understandable. And, I think somebody said there was a bear sighting 10 years ago in Chappaqua, whatever, but typically, right, you're just worried about deer. I mean, that's kind of, and
Yeah.
Deer
rabbits.
and another small animal.
Rabbits.
Yeah, yeah.
Deer and rabbits.
Yeah.
I used to have a vegetable garden in my old house.
Right.
Deer and rabbits.
Every year I'd have to put the fencing back.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
Okay,
thank you. All right, thanks so
All
much.
right, good luck to you all.
So
so,
we have to vote, so.
just, would the vote, when would he be able to start or not start the construction? So that we don't walk
Well,
away.
Dennis
We don't
needs
walk
a
away from it.
revision.
Dennis needs to get a revision, and then you would be approving that revision based on what the architectural review, the environmental report said.
Well, we would approve Dennis issuing a permit. once
Subject
he's-
to the conditions.
Subject to getting the revision and the revision reflecting the conditions that we're putting on the permit. And once he's satisfied that he's got all the paperwork, he would go ahead and issue the permit. Okay. So, entertain a motion on the application?
subject to a resubmittal showing the means of drainage off of the impervious surface. You grant a wetland permit with the appropriate mitigation.
Second.
Subject to mitigation plan being agreed to between Dennis and the applicant. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You voting?
I'm voting.
Okay. Let the record reflect. 3 votes. 4 votes. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, good luck.
You want a copy of it?
Yeah, that's helpful, thank you.
Now I wanna call my dad back. Actually, it's my pleasure.
Do you need a note? Do you need a note from us that you were actually engaged?
No. Yeah. It's nice to have the ability to be able to call your dad back when I need to.
Yeah, no, it's
It
great.
is.
I hope my kids feel the same.
I know my kids will, yeah.
Right.
I hope you laugh.
That's right. Long enough for them to feel that way.
The kids are
Maybe
trying
if
their
you
hardest, they don't last that long, exactly.
Thank you.
That's right. Who's calling?
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you for the big drawing. It's helpful. I told you.
So next I need to give you the
Thank you very much.
Nice.
Right, what I'll do is I'll email you requesting that, and then I'll dictate in that what I've done for other
Okay.
projects that needed punch grasses and mitigation and.
Well, let me know.
Those are quick.
I'll learn that as well.
Yes.
I'm
Okay.
architect by training, but no, let's
No, I know, I know that when I deal with landscape architects, I'm not an ecologist by nature either, it's funny.
Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Nice to
Okay.
Good to meet you.
Thank
Thanks.
you, you too.
Nice to see
That
you.
would be nice to see you too.
Thank you. Let me know your place.
Good to meet you.
Thank you.
You have the place that.
I'm not kidding. We're going out this way, so we're going out this
Oh, that way? Okay.
Going in the garbage.
Thank you so
See if I
much.
can-
Good night.
Okay, good.
So anything else on the agenda?
It's quiet in town, huh?
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, the wetlands permits haven't been like flying in fast and furious, that's for sure. Trees, especially after that windstorm last week, there was a bit of a push, but no, not really the wetlands.
In general, building permits or renovation permits, is it up, down?
They always seem to
Busy?
be busy, those guys.
Nobody
I
can
have to
sell,
admit.
so,
Yeah.
right? Isn't that the deal?
No, that's not true.
Oh, in this, not in the bigger houses, right? The
Right.
They can't sell for what they want to sell for.
Right,
That's right, but they can sell, they're selling,
good.
Huh?
just not at the prices they once were.
Mhm.
And if it's not updated, it's hard.
That's interesting.
You know, anybody who redid their kitchen in 2010, sorry.
You're at
How
the
about 16? How about 16?
What if they did a really
16
nice job in
16 is
2010, no? Still no?
Yeah, no, it'll fly, It just
Yeah.
depends on what they did in 2010. If they were forward thinking, if you were forward thinking with your finishes, then, you know, if it's wood, it's harder. You know, my
So cherry
kitchen,
cabinets are not in?
my kitchen's from 1950, so I'm in the boat of, you know.
You're almost back in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but that's the thing, it's everything changed the last 5 years. All the styles, all the colors.
Everybody wants white still,
And white, gray,
white and gray.
white and gray. White countertops, gray. That's it. And that's a big,
How long is that gonna last, you think?
your guess is good as mine.
You gotta
Hopefully
tell
no
me
more
how
than
long
4
I've got.
years.
I mean,
Are you white and gray? Sell.
yes, no, we did it, we did it in 2016, we
Oh,
did it
alright.
completely.
That's if,
We did white cabinets
Yeah,
with, some of them are gray cabinets,
Right.
kind of a
you
grayish
did it,
brown.
you're good,
Yeah.
you're good, let's sell now.
Sell tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Give me your contact.
But we like it too much, that was the problem, we put a
Right.
fortune into the house, getting ready to sell it, and
So
now we
then
like it and we
you
don't
know,
wanna
that
leave.
happens, that
You
happens
did
all
too
the
good a
time.
job.
But I don't wanna get to the point where,
No, that happens a lot. People, you know, are doing stuff to sell and then they're like, wait, why are we leaving?
Right.
This is great. And that happens a lot.
right, especially, you know, we're talking about moving into a rental, and with mortgages so low these days, we're paying much less than we would have to pay for a comparable rental somewhere
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, and if your taxes aren't too high, you can.
Oh, you live in Chappaqua, so.
Well, you know, it's the taxes over 40,000 that become an issue for people, because now you can't write off. And somebody who's been in their house who's,
Right,
kids
now
are older.
We're still under 30 on our
See, that's the
taxes.
thing, so you're
You're good.
You're okay. You know, if your taxes, the guy the family who's been in their house and their kids are in college now and they're paying 60,000 or 50 in taxes and they can't, and they're like, wait a minute, I can't write that off anymore, what am I doing, I can't. That's where it's affecting people.
Alright, good to know. So, I'm stuck. It will be for, the kids are too young to leave, so.
We need a motion to adjourn.
Second, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Mr. Holmes made the motion, Mr. Alter seconded.
Fantastic.